This video is taken from a live talk I did with platform members. It's about fat loss, but not in the way it's normally spoken about. We talk about why most people know what to do, but still can't stick to it, and how physiology and the nervous system quietly decide the outcome before motivation gets involved. If you've ever felt like you're the problem, this will probably reframe a lot around fat loss, health, and exercise. Right, people, we shall begin. Everyone drinks everything and gone to the toilet, all that. Right, cool. So we'll get started. A few of you have done these before. I wanted to make this one a little bit different. There's a few things that are a little bit different about this. So when I say done these before, I mean the 4-week accelerator programs that we do in platform. This, over the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time really delving into the psychology side of it. And then over the last 6 to 12 months, I've been delving more into the sort of systems around fat loss. I'm sure everyone here today now knows that fat loss is calories in versus calories out, but it's the things I've been delving into over the last sort of year is what are the things that make you control calories in versus calories out, and the space I've been going into is the sort of neurochemistry behind motivation, hunger, and drive, because the thing that will undo you in a hard fat loss attempt is the hunger signal and the drive and motivation that you feel. Drive and motivation isn't only psychological, it's also physiological. And if we don't provide the right neurochemistry, the body struggles to create motivation. It doesn't have enough of the building blocks for the hormones that it needs in order to make you feel motivated and driven. Make sense? So that's around what we've been doing. So I'm probably going to repeat some of that in these next couple of slides. So we've been helping people lose weight for nearly a decade. So over the last year or so, I've been wondering what would happen if we took everything we know about the process and amplified it. So that's, as I was just saying there, it's not just calories in versus calories out. It's also what are all the things that can impact that process. What if we optimize and control every single part of it? The other side to that then is the psychology. What if we not only optimize everything physiologically, what if we challenge your psychology so that we're hitting this on every single front that we can in order to make the most likelihood of success on the process that we can. So over the last 6 months, we've been experimenting, firstly on myself and then with members. So September to December, I dropped 32 pounds in 8 weeks whilst I was testing this. And then I tried this with some members at the end of last year, and it worked really well. So I'm going to go through what that was today. So the thing I want to point out is, to be fair, don't really think this is anyone in this room, but a lot of people, you'll definitely see it on Facebook, get into this headspace of like, oh, I just can't lose weight. I just can't lose weight because, and then some kind of sentence. You're laughing to yourself there. And it'll be some kind of sentence which then creates a belief for them that then reinforces the fact that they can't lose weight. And so because they hold a belief that they can't lose weight, that then creates actions that mean they won't lose weight. It's not that they can't lose weight. Everyone can lose fat. There is no magic to it. It's just controlling the things that matter. So this program is about controlling everything, not just the calories. So there's 3 things that interact with fat loss. You've got physics, psychology, and then logistics. And kind of touched on this already, that physics and psychology are related. I think the sort of belief shift that I've had in the last couple of years is that I used to think them two were separate. That fat loss was one thing, how you think about it's another. But how you approach the fat loss process dictates how you think about it as well. And the two go hand in hand. So it's about maximizing those two so that we make the process more likely to succeed. And then obviously there's logistics to it as well, how you actually build your week. So let's amplify all of them so that in the next 4 weeks, you not only get the best results you've ever had, you also set up the best year you've ever had. That's the plan. Yes. That's the plan for the next 4 weeks. It's called Catalyst because it's not just about having an amazing next 4 weeks. It's about building systems and processes in your life that can carry you through the next year. So it's going to be over the next 4 weeks. We'll meet on a Saturday morning. Ideally, if you can make all of them, that'd be amazing. If you've got to miss 1 or 2 here and there, that's fine. I am planning on recording all of them into Team Platform. I'm recording this today so you can rewatch it back later. I am planning on catching them all. The thing with this is there's going to be lots of things that build on each other. And so today there's a lot of foundational stuff. You kind of need to go away and attempt the program and then come back with experience of it. And then we can start to talk about the things you're then experiencing and layer new things in. So over the next 4 weeks, the plan is to sort of layer things in and build on top. I would love today to go into sleep, but it's such a big topic. I can't fit it in today. I tried, but I can't. And so next week, I'm going to go more into sleep. I'm going to touch on sleep today. I'm going to go really deep into sleep next week and why that matters. You're smirking to yourself there because you know how much I care about my bedtime. The other thing we're going to go through on week 2 is removing chaos. So that's removing chaos out of the process and removing chaos out of your brain. And I'm going to touch on today why the chaos in your brain happens. Hopefully give you some self-control over it. Week 3 then, we're going to go more into the psychology of it. You'll be a couple of weeks into the process. Hopefully at that point, your brain's trying to make you fuck this up. So we can talk about that. And then the exit strategy. What does the rest of the year look like? So hopefully at this point, we've layered lots of habits and behaviors on top of each other. How do we sustain that then going forward through the rest of the year? That's what the week's going to break out like. Today, we're going to go through the strategy in heavy detail and then build the perfect plan. So I'm going to talk about the theory, first of all, behind the physics of it, my physiological secrets to make fat loss easier, the psychology of it, where your brain is going to try and fuck you up, and then we'll go into the logistics, and we'll have everyone leave here today with a plan of what the next week specifically should look like, but then hopefully then how that will repeat sort of going forwards. Okay, cool. So any questions before we jump in? We're all good? Cool. So we're going to start then with the physics side of it. So when it comes to running a calorie deficit, especially a large deficit, so a large deficit would be a deficit that's greater than 500 calories per day. Okay, 500 calorie per day deficit is 1 pound of fat loss per week. That is a sustainable rate of fat loss that you physiologically can maintain for somewhere between 4 to 8 weeks, depending on your history and your genetics. And it's an amount of fat loss and an amount of deficit that won't really make your life dramatically harder to live. And I'll explain those reasons why it gets harder in a minute. When you go beyond 500 calories per day, it really starts to challenge your physiology and psychology, and days can be a real slog. So tolerance to stress drops, your sleep quality drops. Because your sleep quality drops, that means your tolerance to stress goes even lower. All of those things then make you want to go and hunt food. So a 500 calorie per, if we're going beyond 500 calories per day, I'm going to count that as a large deficit for the sake of this conversation. The thing that will derail us in that process is the hunger signal. That's why Manjaro works. It blocks the hunger signal. And the drive and motivation. So hunger signal goes wild. Drive and motivation plummet. That's going to create a scenario where you want to fuck this whole fat loss thing off, go and get some food, chill out, get on the couch, and feel a lot happier in the short term. But in the long term, it doesn't help you get towards what you want. So the things we're going to go through here are about controlling hunger signal with physiological inputs, and then trying to maintain drive and motivation through physiological inputs. Okay. The thing that people don't realize is that motivation and hunger are neurochemical. If we don't give the body the right inputs, you can't feel motivated and we'll constantly feel hungry. That's a bit of an over-exaggeration. You can feel motivated, but the amount that you'll feel motivated is far less than if we create the right environment for the body. We can calm the hunger signal and increase motivation with actions. So there's things that impact hunger response and motivation: fiber, protein, hydration, sleep, and your nervous system specifically. All of these interact with each other. And when you get all of them optimized, the way that they interact with each other is so potent. If you could put that bit in a bottle and sell it, I wouldn't be stood here today, I'd be in Bali on a beach. So when you start linking all these things together, so you're appropriately hydrated, which means the fiber can have a better impact in your gut, which then means that can do a better job of creating serotonin in your bowel, which can make you a better job of creating the happy hormone link between the brain and the gut, which can give you more drive, give you more motivation. You pull one of those parts away, it starts to bring down that whole process. So if you don't have enough water in the gut, the fiber can't have the impact that it should have, for example. All of these systems are linked in one way or another. So when it comes to sleep, I'm going to start with this, as I say. I'm going to go more into this next week, but if I was going to pick one thing out of this list for you to think about over this next week and improve, it is your sleep. For so many people, this could be the key to fat loss. Just getting enough sleep might be enough for you to blunt the hunger signal to an amount that you can then control calories without consciously thinking about it. I can't overestimate how much of the process relies on sleep. Every single process inside your body relies on sleep. When you go to sleep, this is what I'll go into more next week, but when you go into sleep, you have ideally go through 5 cycles. So sleep goes in a 90-minute cycle. Ideally, you get 5 of those 90-minute cycles. Now, your body will choose how it uses those 5 cycles, depending on what's come previously. It will always prioritize body repair to begin. So the first 2 or 3 cycles will be processing food in the gut, releasing growth hormone to let your muscles repair, renewing cell generation, that sort of thing. The final two phases then are for brain repair. So it's logging memories, processing emotions, sort of working through logic. If you constantly short your sleep, you constantly miss the bit for brain repair. So constantly feeling a bad mood because your brain isn't able to clear adenosine from the day, it isn't able to create the neurochemicals for the day that give you the happy hormones. That's why poor sleep is linked with depression, with Alzheimer's in older age and dementia, because throughout your life, you haven't given your brain the opportunity to repair itself at night. You're constantly shorting your sleep and not getting those 5 cycles. However, on the other side of that, if you do get the appropriate sleep, you do get enough cycles, you get it in the right window and so on, the difference is immaculate, and it's like can't be described how much better you will feel day to day. And it means that you walk into situations where typically you'll go, oh, just, you're in the office, there's a cake on the side. You feel really low because you've had a shit sleep. Fuck it, grab that cake. However, you'll find that when you tackle sleep, you'll walk past that cake and not even realize it was there because your body isn't hunting for anything to make itself feel better. You're providing it with the nourishment it needs in order to sustain this process. So sleep, I can't overestimate. Next one then, fiber. Every human on Earth needs 30 grams of fiber per day. If you don't get enough fiber over the long term, it can cause cancer, and it causes depression in the short term if you don't get enough fiber. I'm going to explain why in a second. The average UK human gets about 15 grams of fiber per day. So your average UK human is under eating fiber. The sort of research into the depression side of it is a lot newer. It's last 5 years or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe towards 10. But my understanding of it is, until recently, we didn't understand the link between the brain and the gut in the way that it is, but it is so powerful, it's ridiculous. You have an enteric nervous system, which connects between the brain and your small intestine, large intestine, and them two talk to each other. If your gut is unhappy, it sends, the easiest way I can describe it is it sends bad chemicals back to your brain and makes your brain unhappy. But 90% of your serotonin is created in your gut. The way your gut works, for like easy explanation, is you have organisms that live in your gut, bacteria, millions and billions of like bacteria in your gut. If they aren't being fed with 30 grams of fiber per day, and we can go deeper than that into the types of fiber and so on, but for the sake of this, if they're not getting 30 grams of fiber per day, they're not happy. So the types of cultures that live in your gut, the good ones die, the bad ones sort of get bigger inside your gut, and it means that the whole system down here isn't creating the chemicals it should create, and it's not pulling the nutrients out of the food that it should. If we put in 30 grams of fiber per day, it's like a 3 to 4 week process of your gut kind of restabilizing, the bacteria changing inside your gut. It then changes the neurochemistry that goes between the brain and the gut. With fiber, it is the most potent it's not a macronutrient, but it's the most potent nutrient that goes inside your body for making you feel full. It sends the hunger signal for a couple of reasons. First one is it swells in your gut. So because it swells, it literally makes you feel full. And it controls blood sugar. So if you're getting 30 grams of fiber per day, you won't go through large spikes and drops in blood sugar. When your blood sugar drops, that is one of the reasons why you'll get a hunger signal. So if we can eat enough fiber, we stop that blood sugar dropping too low to the point where you're creating a hunger signal. We also then create a scenario where your brain's getting lots of happy chemicals because your gut's able to produce it. So not only are you not getting the hunger signal, you're in a great mood, hopefully, for most of the day. And again, when I'm saying about how all these things connect, we chuck sleep on top of that. If you're getting enough fiber and enough sleep, your brain is able to process everything at night. So like stressful situations that you're in, emotions you're struggling to handle, your brain's attacking them at night. You then throw in happy chemicals back up. You're then slowing down the rate that food is passing through your digestive system, and the fiber is swelling to make you feel full. Can you see how these things connect and help you attack that hunger signal? So that's fiber. It is incredibly powerful for fat loss, but also for health. Protein then, I think everyone's aware. Everyone's definitely had a conversation with one of the team at some point about eating more protein. So, as well as it sparing muscle, the thing that's important in a calorie deficit is your body will reduce the amount of muscle mass you have unless you give it the building blocks to protect it. And the two building blocks to protect it are weightlifting and protein. Firstly, weightlifting gives your body the signal to maintain muscle mass. And then secondly, the protein then gives it the right nutritional environment that the signal it's getting to preserve muscle mass, it's got the things it needs then in order to preserve it. if we go into a calorie deficit without weightlifting and without enough protein, we also lose muscle. And that's where you get that term skinny fat, where you lose muscle and fat. So when you look in the mirror, you are smaller, but it's the same shape. It's when you can preserve muscle and lose body fat is where the physique actually changes. So a few things with eating a higher protein diet, why that's beneficial. Firstly is for the muscle side of it. Foods in protein are the highest in satiation. So there's a satiation index, which is essentially how many calories you're putting in, how full do you feel. Out of curiosity, I saw the other day, what's the worst thing on the satiation index? Can anyone guess? So this is the most amount of calories for the least amount of filling you up. You're on the right lines, but I mean like as a food you would eat. Crisps, they're pretty low, but it's not it. I laughed to myself when I saw it because it's kind of obvious. What was that? You're right lines, yeah. It's a croissant. Because a croissant is like 400 calories, 500 calories, but it's like 0.1 of satiation. It does nothing. You're basically eating air and calories. So nice. They are so nice. That's the problem, isn't it? That'll probably send it down on the satiation, I think. So if it's higher in protein, it's more satiating, meaning that you feel fuller for longer. Protein stays in the gut longer. It takes longer for the acid and bacteria inside your gut to actually break down protein. So it stays in the gut longer. And again, if we combine high protein, it's taking longer to digest. Fiber, which is slowing down digestion, we feel fuller for longer. Part of your hunger signal isn't just how much food is in my belly. It's also how much food is being processed inside my gut. And so if we can slow down how much is going through the gut, we can then also send a bit of a signal to say, no, I'm quite full here, don't worry about it. I don't know about any of you, but I didn't feel hunger over Christmas for about 2 weeks. And it's not because my stomach wasn't empty, it's because my gut was full. So that is that feeling. The next thing then is protein meals increase the GLP-1 hormone in your gut. GLP-1 hormone is obviously a lot in the news a lot recently because GLP-1 is what Mounjaro, Ozempic, etc. Produce inside the body. And GLP-1 is what blunts that hunger signal. So if you eat protein-rich foods, your body produces GLP-1, which will then help blunt the hunger signal. And then, same as fiber, protein also stabilizes your blood sugar. Hydration. Right, hang on. Before I go through this, how many of you get more than 3 litres a day? Oh, hold on, Lee. Not Prosecco. Okay. You get it? Yeah? Sandy? No? 4 litres? You get 4 litres? 3, 4? Can't do a litre? Right. Need to slap all of you on the hand here. It's wild. You all must have heard that like humans can live for maybe 30 days without food, but we can't go like 2 days without water. Every single metabolic process in your body requires water, including sleep, including breaking down protein, including breaking down and using fiber. I can't overestimate how important it is, and I laugh every time I have to say it because it's like you'll die in 2 days if you don't drink it. You can, yes. The only caveat to tea is caffeine becomes a diuretic when you've had more than 180 milligrams in a day. There's about 40 to 60 milligrams of caffeine in a cup of tea. So after about 3 to 4 cups, it's then a diuretic. So if a cup of tea has 300 milliliters of water in it, it means that some of that is getting pissed straight out because of the diuretic effect of caffeine. So you can include cups of tea, but you've just got to, once you go beyond 3 or 4 cups, you're getting into like, you're probably only actually keeping half of it, maybe less. But when it comes to hydration, this is one thing that we get all the time is like, it's not just water, it is tea, coffee, Pepsi Max. You actually also get a lot of your hydration from food. Like an apple is like 97% water or something like that. Obviously watermelon is full of water. So you do get some from food. I wouldn't generally track how much water is in food because obviously it's difficult to estimate, how much water is in a grape. Like, it's hard to know. But if you're getting, everyone should get 3 litres. The sort of bigger you are, taller, bigger, wider, etc., heavier, probably more to 4 litres. But everyone should be getting 3 litres a day. What will happen if you don't get that is the first few days, you'll be pissing like a racehorse, non-stop to the toilet. It takes 3 or 4 days, maybe 5, there's 2 hormones inside your body. One holds water and one releases water. When you introduce a lot more water than usual, those hormones go a bit crazy for a few days. You have to wait for them to stabilize. It takes 4 or 5 days, and then at that point, you stop going to the toilet all the time, and you start retaining that water in your system. Your blood volume then increases, so your blood thins. It gets around the body much easier. We're getting oxygen around easier. All the metabolic processes inside your body, the breakdown of food, the breakdown of fiber, extracting vitamins, minerals, etc. from your food, all those things become better. Sleep becomes easier. All of it. The fact that it is so responsible for getting oxygen around your body should tell you how important it is to be hydrated. So it's required in every metabolic process. Your body as well. So your body's hunger response, there's lots of things that will trigger it. If I remember rightly, it's the hypothalamus in the brain, and lots of things will trigger that. Your body, your brain, I'll go more into this when we get into psychology in a sec. Your brain only wants to keep you alive. Doesn't care if you're happy, doesn't care about anything other than you being alive. And so when the hypothalamus gets a signal of threat, it can trigger certain things. And it can sometimes trigger the hunger signal, the thirst. Because all the brain knows is something's amiss here. We need to stay alive. Go and get food, hunt food. So it sends the signal of hunger for thirst. So if you're not being hydrated, you're sometimes going to feel hungry. And again, when we go back to fiber, protein, sleep, all those things we've spoken about so far, this is how they all connect. If we put all of them in place, we make it more likely to hit that calorie deficit. Hydration controls the satiety hormones. So if you don't have enough water, your body can't produce the hormones that make you feel full. That's the next one. Again, motivation is neurochemical. Same thing. If we don't have enough water in the body, your body can't produce those chemicals that your brain needs to make you feel motivated. And then dehydration makes you more susceptible to stress, which will activate your sympathetic nervous system, which is the next point. So your nervous system, this is the final 5 of the things we talk about today, where your body will try to pull you down. What was that huff about then?
We spoke about this.
Yeah. So you've got 2 nervous systems in your body. Well, there's more than 2, but for the sake of this conversation, there's 2 in the body. Your sympathetic nervous system will trigger on a threat response. So stress, hunger. If you are actually in a threat, you fucking swerve your car, someone nearly hits you, like them sorts of things. Adrenaline dumps and sympathetic nervous system kicks up, makes you more alert, makes you on the edge. Your parasympathetic nervous system, or they call it the rest and digest system because it runs the gut. The parasympathetic nervous system makes you feel calm. Now, when you're in a calorie deficit, your body senses threat because it isn't getting enough food. So it puts you in a state of sympathetic nervous activation. We need to deliberately try and switch that off and switch the parasympathetic nervous system on. We do that through stimulating the vagus nerve. So we have a big nerve that runs through the body, which controls that parasympathetic nervous system. And there's things that we can do. When I was talking at the start about physiological inputs, there's things that we can do. There's physiological inputs we can give the body that will stimulate that vagus nerve, switch the nervous system over to the rest and digest and the calm system. And as I've done this over the years, I've really found that even when you're incredibly stressed, if you do one of these techniques, it will switch that stress off and switch into that relaxed system. You look skeptical, Dan. So we need to deliberately activate the parasympathetic nervous system during a calorie deficit so that the sympathetic nervous system isn't sending us the hunger signal. Hunger is a hunger signal. So we aren't getting the hunger signal because sympathetic nervous system senses danger. One way to get out of danger is make sure we've got enough food and water. So your body sends that signal to go and hunt food. If we can switch that off manually, we might as well. So if we get enough fiber, eat enough protein, have immaculate sleep, are always hydrated, and consciously stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, we create the perfect physiology to step on the fat loss accelerator. All makes sense. There's a lot there, isn't there? I wanted to make you understand the importance of all of that and how it all connects before we get into creating the plan so that you can understand why you should do those things. So, not to mention that when you do those things, life feels incredible. If you think about it now, if you're giving your body every single resource it needs to give your body happy chemicals, you're giving your body the opportunity to repair itself, for the brain to repair, for every single nutrient that you eat to get extracted and put and used inside your body, you will feel so much better. Can't even underestimate how good that will feel. Again, if you could put that in a tablet, well, it's probably MDMA to be fair, so someone is rich off it. So we're going to delve into psychology. I'm going to go into this more in week 2 and 3, but I want you to experience the process, and then you'll start to feel these thought patterns triggering you. But I'm going to go through them quickly now. So when your brain starts to attack you, you can understand it's normal. I'm wondering as well through this process, some of you might find that you've had these thought patterns before and then hadn't realised it was because you was in a calorie deficit or because you were in a health and sort of fitness regime. So it might be that you get a bit of self-awareness around thought patterns you've got, which maybe you never understood, or maybe you hadn't necessarily noticed that, that shouldn't be there. Or not that it shouldn't, that isn't usually there. It's there now because of X. So understand this, your brain is a defense system. It's not a coach, and it doesn't care if you win. It doesn't care if you lose body fat. It doesn't like change. Your brain isn't trying to make you happy. It just wants you alive, regardless of what that looks like. It doesn't care if you lose weight. Logically, you would think, lose body fat, I'm going to stay alive longer. Brain doesn't think like that. Brain thinks, things are changing here. I ain't got enough food. I'm in danger. Send signals to hunt food and so on. Your brain doesn't care about you being happy. Your brain hates change, it hates uncertainty, and it especially hates energy loss, so calorie deficit. Fat loss ticks all 3 of those boxes, and so your brain is going to kick off royal as soon as it can. Your brain doesn't want you to have abs. It wants you to have food so it knows it's safe. Okay? So just kind of appreciate the fact that your brain isn't going to want you to do this process, and then we can create some conscious self-awareness to attack it. So 4 common dieting, unhelpful thinking styles that are going to attack you. The first one is catastrophizing. So this is sentences in your head like, this isn't working. I've ruined it. What's the point? I can't do this. I've heard every one of them a million times with people who are sat there with an in-body that are showing progress. Someone's lost body fat and gained muscle. It's not working, this, as they pass me the sheet. A few of you are smirking there because you know you've done it. It's common. It's normal. But it is your brain fighting you. Your brain does not want you to be in an energy deficit. It wants safety and it doesn't want change. So your brain is going to fight it and tell you that it's pointless. You can't even do it. I don't know why you're trying. Got to fight that. It isn't, the brain saying that isn't evidence that it's not working. It's emotion. It's not evidence. So early fat loss is messy because hormones, energy, and hydration, all the levels in your body, I was saying before about the 2 hydration hormones changing, happens across your body, across all sorts of hormones, energy levels. You have little sensors inside your muscles, for example, that know how much energy is stored there. They start noticing that there's not as much energy. They start sending a signal back to the brain saying, fuck's sake, make him go and find some food. Everything starts kicking off. The first few days are like pretty wild whilst your body starts getting into it. So while that's going on, the brain hates that uncertainty and starts to jump to conclusions. So with this, remember, these thoughts are just predictions. They're not evidence that the process isn't working. This is why we need to collect data and use data to inform decision making and not allow emotions, thoughts, and feelings to control that process. So number 2, all or nothing. If I can't do this perfectly, why even bother starting? This, in my experience, isn't everyone, but it's a good chunk of people who think like this. Your brain wants certainty and it wants clean rules. What I mean by clean rules is fat loss is messy. It's not every day you don't hit 7,000 steps, as 800 calorie deficit, enough water, enough sleep. Every day your sleep amount's going to be different. Every day your water intake's going to be slightly different. Every day your calorie deficit's going to be slightly different. Your steps, whether or not you train. Your brain hates that. It wants clean rules and repeatability. If you're going through this process and it's slightly different every day, your brain don't like it. So, like I say, it's going to kick off royal. So, in reality, fat loss is messy, as I just said. We've got to find that messy consistency, and your brain fucking hates it. So, we need to try and reclaim the certainty. So, your brain will try and reclaim the certainty of what before. What we need to remember is messy consistency beats random intensity. The random intensity is like perfection for a week, and then, everyone remember the Peter Kay thing of like, I broke a nail and then I had a fry up? It's like I was perfect for 6 days. I broke a nail. I had a fry up on Friday. And I fucked it off for 2 weeks. And then we start again. The brain attacks us again. It's the messy consistency of what I described a moment ago of like, your steps aren't going to be perfect every day. Your calories aren't going to be on. You might not even be in a deficit for some of those days. You know, something's gone wrong logistically, or I had it the other day where because it was so cold outside, the fridge froze my dinner, so I had to go and get something else. So I couldn't eat what I'd brought in. I was in a bit of a rush, so I didn't really have time to think about like what's going to be the perfect meal for me to get here. Did my best, and as much as I was in a calorie deficit, I was in like a 100 or 200 calorie deficit by the end of the day, whereas I was aiming for like a 1500 deficit. But it could be in that scenario, go, well, that's it, I fucked it now. I can't do it perfectly, so why bother? Or I can be like, that's all good, I got my steps, I got my fibre, I got my hydration, draw a line in the sand, we start again tomorrow. Not even start again tomorrow, we carry on tomorrow. Next one is self-attack. Sentences in your head like, I'm weak, I failed, I just can't stick to anything. These create self-limiting beliefs that you then reinforce through actions. So for example, I just can't stick to anything, so you don't. It's not that you can't stick to anything, it's that you told yourself that you can't, so then that action reinforces the belief of, well, I can't stick to it, so I won't. Your brain, though, is going to do this. Again, this isn't evidence that you can't stick to it, it's emotion. Emotion can feel real irrespective of logic, and that's where we've got to be really self-aware and intentional to understand that. So your brain will use shame as a control mechanism to bring you back into what it knows, that safety and comfortability of what it knows of your normal routine and daily patterns. And it thinks that criticism will force compliance. So with this one, remember, harsh self-talk feels urgent, but it makes adherence worse. What that is, I've had a few conversations with people around this where, for example, they'll be saying things to themselves like, you need to lose weight because you're a fat piece of shit. You shouldn't have even got in this position. You feel fucking awful. How are you like this? Go and get in the gym. No one has ever hated themselves into a better place. So you've got to do it through a love for yourself and fight that harsh self-talk, telling yourself those negative things. It's always the filter of, if you wouldn't say it to your best mate, why are you saying it to yourself? You've got to fight them and not let them seep into your brain. There's a quote which is like, ships don't sink because they get holes in them. They sink because of the water that comes on board. Yourself, I think of it as like, you've got yourself here, you've got your brain fighting you. There's holes in yourself, and them little thought patterns that come in is the water getting on board. You've got to put plugs in them and not let them thought patterns come on board that your brain's trying to give you. So the last one then is emotional forecasting. I can't do this for 4 weeks, like that feeling of how you feel today. Or, oh my God, I can't feel like this forever, when you're really struggling on one of the days inside the deficit. Your brain projects today's feelings into the future and assumes that how you feel today is how you're going to feel every day. And if it feels pretty awful today, then it's probably going to feel awful for the rest of your life. But that's not true. And because you're hungry and tired, the fatigue that you feel shrinks the time horizon. So 10 years' time feels really close because you're so tired and hungry. So now your brain's like, well, I'm going to feel like this for the next 10 years. Like, I can't do this. But you're emotionally forecasting the future. That's not how you're going to feel forever. So you are predicting the rest of your future from a temporary state. Remember that when you are in that headspace. So from all of this, try to separate discomfort from danger. This is a real big thing that I don't think gets touched on enough. As I say, all of these things trigger that hypothalamus for your brain to think something's wrong here. This isn't good. We're not getting enough food and we're going to bed. And we've done that 3 weeks in a row now. So your brain starts to panic. However, you need to separate the fact that discomfort of, for example, energy deficit, it isn't starvation. Tiredness doesn't mean you're incapable. A low mood doesn't mean you're failing. And that boredom doesn't mean the plan isn't working. Does that make sense? So nothing has gone wrong. You are doing something uncomfortable, so you should feel uncomfortable. The uncomfiness that you feel is the signal that you're probably on the right path. So what we must do to overcome the psychology, you need to separate the thoughts and the actions. Your thoughts and feelings will fluctuate, but your actions must stay boring and stable. I'm sure everyone's heard this. It's been all over Instagram for a while now. Follow the plan, not your mood. Yeah, that's what that is. Your mood is going to fluctuate. We need to create systems that tie back to the physiology that make us more likely to control the psychology. That if we tick those boxes each day, we can follow the plan and not follow the mood, all being well. Bear in mind, when I say that, we're all human, none of us are perfect. So, even though we're going to follow the plan, not the mood, that means we're following the plan 80%, not 100%. We can allow some perceived failure within that, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person and you've fucked the whole thing up, and so on and so on. So we've covered physiology, we've covered psychology. Before we delve into the action and creating your plan, have we got any questions? Essentially, I want you to go away with the plan of like the next week more than anything, and then hopefully when we sit back down in a week's time, we can discuss more than anything. We're going to discuss what didn't go well, because it isn't going to go perfect in the next week, despite your intentions and motivations today. And that is what we need to get used to, that messy consistency rather than the random intensity. So we're going to go through this bit by bit. Let's make the plan for the best fat loss you've ever had. So, firstly, we need a goal with a time frame attached to it. For example, I want to lose 2 stone in the next 6 months. So this is individual to you all. You've got a little bit on the sheet there. What is your goal and what is the time frame? So if you want to just write those down, as you do that, I'm just going to come around and make sure that you're not setting yourself up to fail and you've set something that's achievable. Happy with that then? Everyone got a goal they're happy with? Cool. Right. So, oh shit. So these are like golden rules, but you're all adults and no one's in prison, so you can do what you want. But this is what I would suggest. So fiber intake is 30 grams every day. Protein is your lean body mass times 2. So when you look on your in-body score, there's a bit on the side which says fat-free mass. That's lean body mass. That number times 2 is your protein target. Water, 3 to 4 litres daily. As I say, the bigger you are, close to 4 litres, you'll get away with 3 if you're a bit smaller. One simple trick with water is have a drink with every meal. If you have at least 500 mils of every meal, you're probably going to get towards 2 litres there. You just got to find like a litre somewhere in your day then. Water, 3 to 4 litres per day. I said that a few times. Tracking calories is the next one. These are the golden rules. If you run the perfect week, you would track your calories. On the next page in a minute, I'm going to tell you how to work out calories. For the sake of this, because we're trying to optimize absolutely everything, I've given you a scenario of a really harsh, aggressive, fast deficit, but it doesn't have to be. We'll discuss that in a second. Sleep. Next week, I'm going to really go into sleep, but for the next week, if for 7 days in a row, you get the exact same bedtime, give or take, I'm talking like 3 minutes, it will completely change the way that you feel if you don't already do that. Sometimes I talk to people about sleep and they're already doing it. And I would add the caveat that the time you go to bed allows at least 8 hours in bed. And then stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system, which I'll tell you how to do in a minute. And then no alcohol is a big one. Alcohol disrupts the process like you would not believe. So you're all adults, and I get that people like a drink. So it's completely up to you. However, there's a slide in a minute that says, if you just did every single thing right for the next 30 days, how do you think you'd feel? And who do you think you'd become? So I'm going to leave that with you on alcohol. Do what you want with that. But I will say, even 1 glass of alcohol impacts your sleep. And then when sleep's impacted, hunger signal goes up, drive reduces, calorie deficit becomes harder to hit, etc., etc., etc. Not to mention the fact that alcohol also contains calories. So you're getting calories in without getting in potential nutrients that you could be putting inside your body to help that whole process. Because alcohol is a poison in the body, once your liver detects it, it will only burn the alcohol calories before it then starts burning carbohydrate and fat inside your body again. So, yeah. So that's how it can really impact the process. But even 1 glass, if you have 1 glass, you've had, let's say you've been in a 500 calorie deficit for the day, and then you have whatever you have is 300 calories of wine in an evening. Your body then needs to process them 300 calories of wine before it gets back to processing the deficit you've created. Yeah. So food. So calories, body weight in kilograms times 22 for women or 24 for men is your basal metabolic rate. So the basal metabolic rate is if you didn't move all day and laid in bed, that's how many calories you're going to burn. We then need to add on an activity factor, depending on how active you are per day. So 1, obviously we're not changing it at all. That's if you do, 1,000, maybe 2,000 steps and you don't go to the gym in the week. 1.3 is if you're getting like 5,000 to 7,000 steps per day and getting 2 to 3 gym sessions a week. 1.5 would be you're upwards of 10,000 steps a day. You get in the gym like solid without fail 3 to 4 times a week. This can go as high as 2. If you're getting like well over 10,000 steps every day and training 6 days a week, then you're like right over 2. But I always think the activity factor, if you're trying to create fat loss, you're better off underestimating it because that will help speed up the process. So most people in here are going to be 1-3 or 1-5. 1-3 is 5 to 7,000 steps, 2 to 3 sessions. 1-5 is more like 10,000 steps and consistently 3 to 4 sessions a week. So you take the number you've got here, your body weight in kilograms, and then you times it by your activity factor. That now is how many calories you will burn per day from all of the things that your body's going to do if you didn't move, and then all the steps that you do, all the training that you do, all of that's factored in. That's how many calories you need every day just to sustain as you are. So to create this aggressive deficit, we want to divide that number by 2. That's going to create a really big deficit for you to go after. Should be more than 500 calories per day, unless anyone here is about 3'1". Is that a question, or are you saying you're 3'1"? Now, I just want to say that deficit is optional. You don't have to go that aggressive. You can take 500 off that, or if you want to go aggressive and try it with maximizing fiber, protein, and so on. So a couple of people are just saying there, when they've worked this out, it looks really low, and it is going to, so this is why I'm saying it's optional. So the trade-off is, the bigger the calorie deficit, the faster the fat loss, but the more challenging it will feel. However, because we're optimizing these things, it shouldn't feel as challenging as when you've done this previously. So, but it's up to you. You don't have to go that aggressive. Every 500 calories you take off that number per day is a pound of fat loss in the week. So if you minus 500, you're going to lose 1 pound of body fat. If you take off 1,000, you're going to lose 2 pounds of body fat. 1,500, you're going to lose 3 pounds, and so on. 750, you're going to lose 1.5 pounds. You can set that target. Beyond 500 is going to feel challenging. I'm happy for anyone to set 500, but beyond 500 will feel challenging. I'd probably say for most people, maximum of minus between 1,000 and 1,200. Okay? There's a question before about, can we go less than the BMR? You can. We're going to try and maximize every single system inside the body. Most people will have gone into a calorie deficit that wasn't that harsh, but sleeping like crap, probably still having alcohol, abusing caffeine, not getting enough fiber, not getting enough water, and not sleeping very well. When you're doing all of those things, a 500 calorie deficit feels really fucking challenging. If you optimize all of those things, it feels so much easier. Your body's getting all the things it needs to be able to process emotions, handle stress, extract the nutrients that you are getting. So for example, when you eat protein, your body doesn't use it all. So let's say, because your body's inefficient, because you're not sleeping enough, you're not getting enough water, you're not getting enough fiber, you're only getting 50% of the protein that you're eating actually used inside your body. We do all of these things, even though you've created a massive deficit, your body's now using 80% of that protein that you're eating. So the body becomes more efficient, so it's better able to handle those more challenging deficits. So one thing I was going to say is, the bigger the deficit, the less amount of time you can stay in that deficit generally. Makes sense? It's because it is challenging for the body. All of these things will extend the amount of time you can stay there for. But at a 1,500 calorie deficit, you probably every 4 weeks need a diet break. So I would probably look at, like, what does this look like in a 4-week period? On some of these weeks, should I create a diet break? And then it's up to you whether you, for example, like if you're like, that week I'm really going to struggle to get in the gym, so that week I'm going to up my calories and use that as a bit of more of a rest. I'm going to give my body the things it needs to replenish from the fact it's been in such a half deficit for so long. So I'd look at it more in like I'd probably be looking at a 1,500 calorie deficit, 3 weeks of cut, 1 week of maintenance.
It's got a bigger picture. Sort of
bigger picture, yeah. 3 weeks on, 1 week. It's not off, it's maintained.
Yeah.
And then repeat that until you get to the goal. One point on that is, for a lot of females, that's the best rhythm because of the menstrual cycle. The time of the week when you're on, you should probably eat more calories. But you should definitely eat more calories. And quite often, the best rhythm is that what I've just said to Aaron there, where it's 3 weeks on, 1 week at maintenance, and repeat that pattern until you get to your target fat loss. We've discussed them then. We've gone through them. Sleep. Week 2, I'm going to go into sleep. I'm going to go into deep sleep. Excuse the pun. For the next week, if you get the same bedtime 7 days in a row and give yourself a minimum of 8 hours in bed, that'll be an amazing start. I'd also suggest tracking your sleep on an app called Sleep Cycle. You get the first 7 days for free. It is really illuminating. It tracks your sleep from the microphone. You just put it next to your bed. It's crazy how accurate it is. And it also works if there's two of you in bed as well. It knows, it'll ask you sometimes, is this you or someone else? And you can tell it, and then over time it knows which one you are. The data that gives you is amazing, and it really helped my sleep dramatically. Anyone used that before?
How much is it?
If you remember right, it's 35 quid for the year, the whole year, not per month. And then your nervous system. So this will be alien to a lot of people, I think. 3 to 7 times per week, I want you to stimulate your vagus nerve. There are a few ways that you can do this. So sauna and steam room do it. Cold shower does it. I didn't put on there sauna steam room. I didn't put time, but 20 minutes. That doesn't have to be in one hit. It could be, 3 lots of 8 minutes, or 2 lots of 10, or 1 lot of 20. 20 minutes sauna and steam. 30-second cold shower. Breath work. This one you can do anywhere and everywhere. It's great. I actually do this in the sauna, and you feel incredible for it. And then walking. But walking, no phone, no music, 20 minutes. Okay? So these 4 things will stimulate your nervous system to put you into a parasympathetic state, make you feel calm, make you feel cool, collected. And sometimes you'll have a hunger signal which is coming at you because it's your brain going, shit, we need food. You do this and it switches that off. And that hunger signal is coming from your sympathetic nervous system. We do that, it switches off. It might switch off for a few hours, it might switch off for the rest of the night, but we abate it for a little bit of time. So 20 minutes, 30 seconds, again, cold shower in your house, anyone can do that. It is nasty if you've never done it before. It takes some building up to and getting used to. This one though, anyone can do anywhere. So the 4-2-4, it's a little bit different from what you'd read online, but this is the one I do. In for 4 seconds, hold it for 2, out for 4 seconds, do that for 5 minutes. A way that I do that, if I haven't got anything to time me or whatever, is I put my hands on my lap like that, and every time I do it, I just put a finger out, and I go through my hands twice. And when you finish that, it's like all the problems I've just had have just evaporated, and I can just chill out for a little bit. Because you've just stimulated that vagus nerve, adrenaline's come down, cortisol's come down, your body goes into a state of relaxation. We need to deliberately do this in a calorie deficit. Another little caveat here as well is the cold shower. If you're showering before bed, your body core temperature needs to drop in order to initiate sleep. If you shower at night before bed, you raise your core temperature. If you finish with a cold shower, you will not only reduce your core temperature, you will also, your body needs to go into, ideally, a parasympathetic state in order to sleep. So if you do your normal shower, finish with a cold shower, and then get into bed, it's like double whammy of helping you sleep as well. Cool, so everyone happy with that then, yeah? So you'll see on the rest of your sheet then, so has everyone got a calorie target, fibre goal, protein goal? Fibre goal I put on there, it's 30 for everyone, but I put it on there because I wanted you to write that down so it gets logged. Nightly bedtime. So that's the next one on your sheet. Nightly bedtime, so as I say, it's got to be allowing 8 hours before you need to be up. So for some people, you can choose a bedtime whenever you want. Some people, for example, if you need to be up at 6 a.m., then you need your bedtime needs to be latest 10 p.m. And I'm just going to suggest to everyone, try it for 7 days in a row and see how you feel. So if you want to jot down nervous bedtime, and then nervous system tactic is that. Oh, gone off it. Nervous system tactic is which one of these are you going to try? I suggest everyone can do this. Everyone can do that, but it takes some real mental strength to like build up to that. You can go upwards of 2 minutes doing that, but no, take that back. 90 seconds. I did it once for 2 minutes, and I got like cold burns on my shoulders, so I wouldn't recommend. And then sauna steam room, obviously, you just need access to sauna and steam. And then walking, yeah. So breath work and walking, anyone can do. These are like optional, dependent on what's going on. I promise you, if you do this, like you just feel amazing for it. And this is what I was getting at before about, even if you don't use this for fat loss, if these are rhythms in your life, you'll just feel great every day. So we don't want to go all in, which is the next bit on the sheet. We want to ramp up over the next week. The goal is that by week 4, we've set the year up. We're not trying to set the year up tomorrow. There's a little quote I love is, the year's not 12 days long, it's 12 years long. So we're trying to do this for the next 12 months long. That's a long year, isn't it? The year's not 12 days long, it's 12 months long. So we're trying to set up, we're not trying to achieve this in 12 days, we're trying to achieve this in 12 months. So the goal is that by week 4, we've layered all these things on top, and we start that over the next 4 weeks, we habit stack. So we lay one habit, we go for the next, we go for the next. We're not trying to do all of it in day 1. It's about consistency, not intensity. So on your weekly plan, you'll see underneath, we want to take 3 to 4 days, or upwards of the next week, to ramp everything up. We don't want to try and do everything on day 1. Once we have got one of these things in place, we want to maintain that onto day 2. So for example, if day 1 is calories, day 2 is then calories and sleep, for example. So all I want you to do is just think about the next 6 days before we come back to Saturday next week where we sit down again. And I want you to just underline or cross, like, which one are you going to do on day 1, on Sunday, tomorrow, which one are you going to do Monday, and like add them up. So you're going to pick 6 by the end of it. When you look at the research, it's some of it's lifestyle change as you get older as well. It's the same sort of thing that it's for the same reasons that people think fat loss is hard as you get older. It's not that fat loss necessarily becomes harder, it's slightly harder, but it's lifestyle change. So when you're younger, you'd probably walk a lot more, maybe have a more manual job. Those things reduce as you get older, which means your natural daily calorie burn is less, so it feels harder to lose body fat. They're the same things though then that impact sleep. Part of your sleep is the build-up of adenosine through the day. Adenosine builds up per hour when you're doing things. If your day is less active and more sedentary, you don't build as much up by the evening, you have less need for sleep. There is some things that change as you get older, but largely it's lifestyle that changes. Cool. So, what would your life look like, and how close to your goals would you be if you devoted the next 30 days to not allowing anything to get in the way? And who do you think you'll become in the process? Just going to leave you with that. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to keep reflecting and building on top of this plan. Any questions? I think we've answered them to be fair, but if you do have any, speak up or forever hold your peace. Right. Well, everyone feeling empowered to attack the week?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're back here at 9 o'clock next week. We're going to go through removing chaos, and we're going to reflect and review on everything that you've done in the last 4 weeks, last 7 days. Fuck me, I need to get back to bed, don't I?